later today, we will be voting to advance the Sustainable Jobs Act. It is a critically important act in the context of growing an economy that will thrive in a low-carbon future. It will ensure that workers and environmental organizations have a seat at the table when we are discussing Canada's Green Economic Plan. The Conservatives have obstructed at every turn, including introducing 20,000 robo-amendments. We are building a strong economy for the future. The Conservatives, by contrast, are engaging in legislative vandalism.
Heather from Newbury writes, people need the cost of living brought under control now. And Carol from Strathroy says, one more tax will take us down. We're already struggling. To the average Canadian, the cost of the carbon tax on gas, groceries, home heating, farmers and families is punishing, not progress. So will the Prime Minister axe the tax on farmers and help make food cheaper by passing Bill C-234 in its original form?
The Honourable Minister for Labour and Seniors.
All right, I thank the Honourable Member for that question, and I would allow Danielle from Foothills to continue with her comments. She also added, I would say that I probably ended up better off with that transfer. She also said, and so I think a lot of people would be of that view, that if you are going to implement some kind of revenue-neutral carbon pricing, that's probably not a bad way of doing it. Now, these are the words of Danielle from Foothills. I'm happy to inform Danielle that 2.5 years later, since she made that comment, it is now up to $1,800 for a family of 4 in Alberta. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Lambton Kent Middlesex.
Well, Mr. Speaker, even the NDP Liberal Environment Chair admitted that the carbon tax has no impact on climate change. And yet, just last week, the Prime Minister increased the carbon tax by 23%, driving up the cost of gas, groceries, and home heating. If farmers cannot afford to grow food, you have failed as a government. And let me remind everyone, no farms, no food. So will the Prime Minister help bring the cost of food down for Canadians, axe the tax on farmers, and pass Bill C-234 in its original form?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, instead of opposing battery plants, instead of standing up against sustainable jobs, that member and her caucus should remember that farmers have the vast majority of the fuels they use, which are tax-exempt under the pollution pricing strategy. Farmers in this country are supported big time by adjustment policies because they know more than anyone that climate change is a reality. And with respect to Bill C-234, that member should walk down to the front bench and tell her opposition House Leader that he should call Bill 234 and we'll resolve it.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member from Dauphin, Swan River, Neepawa.
This NDP Liberal government is just not worth the cost. Last week, the Prime Minister increased the carbon tax by 23%, driving up the cost of gas, groceries, and home heating. But on Tuesday, the Liberal Environment Chair revealed there is no proof the carbon tax reduces emissions. Quote, there is no data specifically stating the price on carbon resulted in an X amount of reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, end quote. Now that the carbon tax scam has been exposed by a Liberal, will the Prime Minister finally axe the tax?
The Honourable Minister for Energy,
Thank you.
for Natural Resources and Energy.
On this side of the House are focused on making life more affordable for Canadians, but also on fighting climate change. The PBO and 200 economists across this country have been very clear. 8 out of 10 Canadian families get more money back. It works disproportionate to income. Even the Conservatives actually used to know this before they got collective amnesia. Every one of the members on that side of the House ran in 2021 on a promise to put in place carbon pollution. The hypocrisy that comes from that side of the House is unbelievable.